Shalom, and welcome to the Parasha Pod. I'm Rav Mordechai Rosenberg, here with Rav Menachem Leibtag, and we are talking Torah together.
Korach in Israel, and still in Shlach in Ketoret.
Right. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's time to learn. Rav Leibtag, this week in Parashat Korach, we have the rebellion of Korach and his team. And I have to say, I find a lot of Korach's complaints very compelling.
You want to join the team?
Well, I like Moshe, but the problem with Korach is that he's got a pretty good point. Like, on the one hand, yes, he says everybody's holy, so why do you raise yourself up against other people? Maybe that one isn't quite as strong, but the next one I find really, really strong, which is that he attacks Moshe for failing to bring the Jewish people into the land.
You made an election promise and you didn't fulfill it.
Yeah, he took us out of Egypt, promising to bring us into the land of Israel, and you've just told us that we're all going to die in the desert. And that's pretty devastating. If I was them, I would think maybe we need a new leader. And just to add to that, it seems like next week's parasha, they are in fact going to get a new leader when Yehoshua is going to be replacing Moshe. So, does Korach have a good point? And what is Moshe's defense?
Okay, so the fact you have a good point doesn't mean your solution is always the right one.
Right.
Okay? In other words, people have a lot of good gripes, which are founded, but what are they offering instead? Mm-hmm. You can say, well, something's wrong. That doesn't mean that your opinion is right.
Right.
But, let me flip the question on you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were Korach, and I'm Moshe. I said, okay, Korach, here's a piece of paper. Write down everything you want. You can have whatever you want. Just give me a list. Everything what you can have. Mm-hmm. What would you put on that list if you were Korach? In other words, what does Korach want?
Right. I think I would guess Korach wants to replace Moshe and Aaron.
He wants their job.
Yeah.
Does he say that?
Well, he
definitely likes complaining, doesn't he?
Well, he said he says, why have you raised yourself up over other people? Because everyone's holy.
And therefore no one should be holy? Or no one should be a leader?
Well, his claim seems to be that everyone should be equally holy.
No, he doesn't say. That's not his claim. That's the nimuk. That's the reason for his claim. He's not claiming everyone's holy.
Right.
But rather, because everyone's holy,
therefore you shouldn't raise yourself above anybody else.
Yeah. So, what are Moshe and Aaron doing that they're raising themselves over other people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is he claiming everyone's holy, therefore no one should be a leader? Everyone's holy, therefore I should be a leader? Then what makes you holier than others?
Right. Yeah. That part of the claim definitely it seems to be coming from a very egalitarian place. Mm-hmm. Or, I think Rabbi Sachs said in the name of the Abarbanel, he interpreted him to be like an anarchistic ideal, like the idea that actually no hierarchy and no authority is actually the ideal.
I like to call Korach the first politician.
Yeah, he's definitely a politician.
But the question is, politicians have good claims, remember?
Mm-hmm.
They always say what's wrong with the other person.
Yeah.
But what are they offering instead?
Mm-hmm.
And when they're giving criticism, is it constructive criticism, or is criticism the goal or the tool to achieve some other goal?
Right.
So when you look carefully, one of the most confusing things about the story is it's confusing. And it goes back and forth. There's two different complaints. One is your leadership has failed, and that's legitimate, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, is that a complaint against Aaron or against Moshe?
That's Moshe.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
They don't say anything, Aaron, you failed. Mm-hmm. Like, Aaron, now, who appointed Aaron when they're going to be put to a test, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's the test?
The bringing of the Ketoret, the incense.
Okay. Now, what's that testing for?
They're testing whether God will have chosen them as Kohanim.
So there's a line. Moshe tells them, there's 250 people, and Aaron and Korach, etc., who come to the test. Now, what do they say? Everyone bring Ketoret, and whoever God will chose will be kadosh. Mm-hmm. Now, there's how many participants? 252 people in that test.
Yeah. How
many people can win?
Potentially 251 up to.
And they're all leaders?
Well, they could all.
What are we testing for?
Right.
That's the question. When you administering a test, what are you testing for?
Yeah.
And what are the possible results? Does Moshe tell them, if you lose, you're dead? Or are they going
he doesn't
to...
tell them. He doesn't tell them that.
He didn't tell them that, does he?
Right.
He says, and it's his idea. It sounds like it's his idea.
Right.
That's a great question. When Moshe falls on his face, when he first hears the complaint, and then gets up and says, here's the test for tomorrow. Did he fall down on his face and pray? And God says, here's the test? Or was he sort of in despair and then, oh, I have an idea? So when you read carefully, something really interesting comes through. If everyone can pass the test, then what are we testing for? Not for who's the leader, but rather, who can offer korbanot? In other words, everyone was about, no one doubts the existence of God here.
Right.
No one doubts the covenant we made at Har Sinai. No one doubts we're the Jewish people.
Right.
But, and even though that they believe that when God took them out of Egypt, and Moshe was his right-hand man, etc., who made that decision that only Moshe's nephews and his brother can offer korbanot? Because we were all at Sinai, weren't we? And who brought korbanot at Mount Sinai? Narei Bnei Israel. Because I'll say the firstborn. Why can't everyone bring sacrifices? Who decided only this elite family, only Moshe's immediate family can bring korbanot? What's it look like to the normal person?
It's like nepotism.
Nepotism, right?
Right.
Now, had God said at Har Sinai, Anuchi Hashem Elokecha, etc., no one can bring korbanot except Aaron, etc., okay. But it looks to them like Moshe is making it up.
Yeah.
How can Moshe prove it? He said, listen, he says, God said it, but you want to give it a try? Give it a try. He didn't say otherwise you're going to die. He said, if you say everyone's kadosh, if everyone can bring korbanot. Now, the best proof of that is after he offers the test, he gives a little rebuke only to some of the 250. Remember, he says, Rav Lechem b'nei Levi.
Right.
He says, everyone come to the test, and then he says, Shimona b'nei Levi. He says, listen up, b'nei Levi. It wasn't enough that when God chose you already to carry the Mishkan, wasn't that enough for you? In other words, when you were chosen and made special to give in the job or privilege of carrying the Mishkan, you didn't complain, how come only we get to do it? Why can't everyone do it? Because when it didn't work in your advantage, you didn't complain everyone's kadosh for everyone should get that. When it goes against you, and that's why he says, and now you ubikashtem gam kuhuna, that's the key line. But when he says that then, now you're coming with all your buddies, etc., and you also want kuna in addition to your ability to carry the Mishkan, okay? And therefore come to the test. I think that's the best proof. What they want is kuna. They want, why can't everyone bring a korban? Which is a really legitimate complaint.
Right. Although it doesn't seem that that's,
and Moshe
I
says,
don't really see that so explicitly in Korach's original claim.
No, but that's right. That's what I'm getting at. You don't see it in the beginning. That's why I asked you the question, what's on the shopping list? What does he want?
Right.
It's unclear. But when Moshe offers the test and he agrees to it, it seems that we're testing. It says, Ba'aron mahu kitalinu alav.
Yeah.
What do you want from Aaron? You're complaining about him. You're complaining about why only Aaron and his sons can bring korbanot. Why not everybody? Why not at least other important people? Or why can't we, why can't at least some people, maybe the firstborn, maybe the, only from a certain shape, but why only you? Why only your brother?
Yeah.
And Moshe says, give it a try. Maybe I'm wrong. Give it a try. See if it works. Moshe didn't tell him if you lose, you're dead.
Do you think he knows that?
What?
It sounds like because it seems pretty reminiscent of what Nadav and Avihu would do, and they end up dead.
Well,
and everybody supposedly.
I don't think Moshe knows that. I think that's what the people think, because when the story's over, they accuse Moshe of killing them. Atem and meet them at Am Hashem. You killed, you killed God's people.
Right.
In other words, they're simply saying, we want to bring korbanot. What's so bad about that? The bigger question is, why is God so angry?
Yeah.
What's so bad at wanting to bring korbanot? What's so bad about that?
Yeah, so what is it?
Now, how come Datan and Aviram don't come to Moshe's summons? Because after he offers the test, Moshe calls Datan and Aviram, and what do they answer?
Lord Na'aleh, we will not go out.
So what's the big deal? So don't come.
Well, Moshe is the boss.
But Datan and Aviram are not complaining about korbanot.
Right.
Look at their RSVP. Moshe is summoning them to come to him, and in their RSVP, when they're saying we're not coming, they give a reason. Why can't we attend?
Right.
Because not because we're holy, but rather
כי תסתרנו גם תסתרע, אף לא אל ארץ זבת חלב ודבש.
That's politics.
Right. You took us out of a land flowing with milk and honey, namely Egypt, and you have not you raised yourself over us, and you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk
They're
and honey,
complaining.
namely Israel.
That's a complaint against Moshe.
Yeah.
About his leadership. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And when Moshe sends them a summons, when they don't accept the summons, they're saying we don't accept your political leadership.
Right.
Now, if someone has to be a leader, no one thinks that we need anarchy. In every society, someone has to be a leader. I don't think he's an anarchist. I think he has another solution. Now, in general, in the family, who is the leader?
The eldest.
The eldest, right? Now, what shevet is the Bechor?
Reuven.
And what tribe is Datan and Aviram from?
Reuven.
Opening line.
Yeah.
From Shevet Reuven. Now, when Moshe turns to God,
yeah, after
Datan and Aviram give that political complaint, Moshe turns to God and has a very strange prayer.
Right. It's very. I always bothered.
I was expecting to ask that question. That's the biggest question of them all. What's Moshe say?
He says, Moshe gets angry. Vayomer el Hashem al tefen el minchatam. Do not turn to their sacrifice.
What's a mincha? Why'd you say sacrifice? It didn't say korban.
Right.
What's a mincha? Mincha is a present.
Yeah.
What present? They're not coming to the test.
Right.
Now, he's not complaining about the people coming for the Ketoret test. There's two different groups that are going on.
Yeah.
That's the key. One group has a religious complaint against what appears to be Moshe's decision. Only Aaron and his kids can bring, and his children can bring korbanot. Mm-hmm. And they say, we want to bring korbanot, including Shevet Levi. Not only Shevet Levi, but there's 250.
Right.
They also want to be part of this. And Moshe says, give it a try. To you. Datan and Aviram have a political complaint against Moshe's leadership. Now, what's really tricky is that when they give their answer why they're not coming or they're not accepting his leadership, Moshe turns to God and says, don't accept their present, whatever they're doing. And then he gives a reason why their complaint's not legit. Why? Because I didn't do anything to hurt them. I wasn't corrupt. I didn't take any of their animals, etc.
Right.
The same thing that the Haftarah we're going to read, that Shmuel says when he points Shaul to become king, when he said, if anyone has to complain about my political leadership, was I unjust? Did I take advantage of my position? State your complaint now.
Right.
But Moshe seems to be saying, I hear their complaint, it sounds justified, but I'm okay. He's sort of praying for himself. But what are they bringing to God? But could it be they have their own Mishkan? How come I ask that question?
I don't know. Do they have their own Mishkan?
Well, you didn't read very carefully, did you? So listen, there's two stories going on. Right? When Moshe and Aaron, when Moshe doesn't like their answer, when Datan and Aviram send a response and say, we don't accept your leadership, Moshe says, don't accept any of their prayers, whatever it is. Okay? And then the narrative goes back to the 250.
Yeah.
Correct? Now, what happens? At the end of, I think, Pasuk Yudchet Yutet, right? We have exactly who the 252 are. 250 and Aaron and Korach are coming for the Ketoret test with their fire pans. We're waiting for the outcome. What does Korach bring at the very last minute? Look in Pasuk Yutet. What does Korach do? Korach brings Kol Ha'edah. Who's Kol Ha'edah? Is Kol Ha'edah the 250?
I think it's the Jewish people to watch.
I call them the gawkers, meaning the people, not everybody, but the followers. People like you who thought, hey, they have a good complaint. They're not joining his thing, but they're watching. They're gawking. I think it's called in English. Is that a real word, English?
Yeah, gawking, yeah.
Right? No, they're getting support from the spectators.
Yeah.
The people who aren't maybe harsh enough to really join them, but they're sort of rooting for them. And they're giving them strength.
Well, it seems that's one of the things that Korach's strength is, to gather people, collect different people from different groups, and to use that to challenge.
Because people like to hear what they want to hear, and that sounds like a good complaint. Hey, this is really good and it's exciting. Maybe we can get some change. Now the question is, what's motivating the people wanting to make the change? Now we're waiting for the results, and before anything happens, we have a special Parasha on Pasuk Chav. Out of nowhere, for the first time, God gets involved in the story. And what does God tell Moshe and Aaron? Hibadlu mitoch ha'edah harazot. Separate yourself from this group. V'achalev otam korach. I'm going to eat them up.
Yeah.
He's going to eat who up?
It seems like the whole
nation.
Jewish people. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does Moshe respond?
they daven and they say, Hashem, you know everybody's mind, so don't just punish those who are guilty.
He gives a very beautiful introduction.
Right. Elohei haruchot l'chol basar.
That's an epithet, something like that. What's he naming God? God, Elohei haruchot l'chol basar. We talked about that in Parasha Balotcha, didn't we? Ruach and Basar, 70 leaders.
Yeah.
Ruach is what inspires people to take initiative, to be leadership for good or for bad. What happens? He turns to God, you who give man the ability to take leadership, etc. Are you going to punish the whole group for the sin of a single person? Now, is the Ish Echad Korach and they died the 250? Or is Ish Echad the 250 and Datan, etc., and they died the whole nation? Now, is God threatening just to punish the troublemakers and Moshe is praying to save them? Or is Moshe saying punish only the troublemakers, but don't punish the whole nation?
Right.
What makes more sense?
The way I always read it was to say that he's saying punish the troublemakers and don't punish the whole nation, especially since that seems to be that God seems to agree with him, and then all the troublemakers are punished.
Has Moshe ever davened and God said no?
Yeah, for himself.
But for the nation? By Chet Egel, he prays for the nation.
Yeah.
He prays for the nation by Tavira. But whenever Moshe prays for the nation, God listens.
Okay.
So now, what's God's answer? Look carefully. How does God answer that? Oh, you read that too fast, right? God tells Moshe, here's your answer. You don't want me to kill everybody? Go warn the people.
Right, separate from them.
From who?
From Korach and everyone.
From Mishkan Korach, Datan and Aviram. They have a Mishkan. I don't know what that is. It's some headquarters, but it's not our Mishkan. It can't be. Why? It seems like Datan and Aviram have party headquarters in the tribe of Reuven.
Right.
And they're not here in the middle of the camp. Because if God tells Moshe, go to the headquarters of Datan, Aviram, and Korach, which is in Nachlat Reuven, where they're claiming we're the political leadership, how's Moshe going to get there? He's going to have to walk. And listen what Moshe does. What's it say next? Vayakam Moshe, Vayelech el Datan Aviram. What's that mean? There's two different locations. There's one party headquarters with a political revolt, not accepting Moshe's leadership, in Shevet Reuven saying we should be the leaders. And who's running that? Datan Aviram from Shevet Reuven. There's another group of complainers who want we want to bring Kohanim, we want to be able to bring Korbanot, the 250, and they have nothing in common other than both have really good complaints.
Yeah,
they have one thing in common: Korach. That's why I call him the first politician. Right. What's Korach doing?
He's got a coalition.
He's taking two different groups,
right,
supporting their claim. Right now, outside party headquarters in Shevet Reuven, outside the law office, it's law office of not just Datan Aviram. This is the law office of Korach Datan Aviram.
Yeah.
Because his name is there. Right? He's involved in that revolt against Moshe's leadership. He's also involved in the revolt against nepotism. Like when before elections, you complain, your foreign policy is bad, your religious policy is bad. We have elections coming up every couple, quite often. So you have a lot of good complaints. But the question is, when you're complaining and trying to get elected, whatever it is, are your complaints constructive criticism, or are you using them as a tool to get power? Right. And that's the question, what's motivating Korach? The rabbis in Pirkei Avot have a beautiful insight. It's called, there's a machoket shelo l'shem shamayim. Right. In other words, you can argue, like Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, or Shammai and Hillel argue for good reason.
Right.
It's a shem shamayim, and it's good to argue. Yeah. So what we do, that's how you grow with arguing. You can argue, not l'shem shamayim, for the wrong reason, and using argument, bringing up good reasons, but for the wrong motivation. That's where you have to be careful.
Right.
So we're going to see there'll be two different punishments. But Moshe has to go. Moshe gets up, goes to Shevet Reuven, and warns the people, get out of there.
Right.
And most people listen.
So in other words, God's initially says, I'm going to get rid of them all. And what you're saying is that is all the people that are associated with Korach, because...
I call them all the gawkers.
Right. And then Moshe says, don't kill them all, just kill the people that are guilty. So Hashem says, all right, so the people need to show themselves to not be guilty by separating themselves.
So quit gawking or quit looking at them.
Right.
But quit looking at what's going on, because the spectators give them support.
Right.
Show that when is one person, when is the whole group responsible for a single person? When they're supporting him.
Yeah.
So sometimes one person takes something to an extreme, but everyone's guilty for supporting them.
Yeah.
Now, therefore, he says, if you want to save the Eidah, warn them, separate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Most people listen, but Korach's staunchest supporters stay there. Now, who stands steadfast and doesn't listen to Moshe? What's it say? Datan and Aviram, Amduni Tzavim, Petach Olem, and the family and all their staunch supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And the land opens up. Remember, Moshe says, do something to prove it's not from me, it's from God. In Bria, Moshe says something totally supernatural. Then they'll know it wasn't my magic trick, but this is something from God.
Yeah.
But who's not there?
The 250 people?
For sure not. They're in the Olam Moed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you read carefully, Korach's not there either. Moshe goes to Mishkan Korach Datan and Aviram, but who swallowed up? Datan and Aviram, V'kol Adam asher Korach, and all Korach's men and supporters, and Shevet Ruvain there.
Mm-hmm.
But who's not there? Korach's not there, and not the 250.
Yeah.
And they get swallowed up. But we never find out what happened to the 250 until when? Oh, a little footnote at the very end. The story switches.
Right.
In Pasuk Yotet, we're waiting for the showdown. The whole 250 gathered, 250 and Moshe and Aaron and Korach, bringing Ketoret, waiting for the answer. What's going to be? Waiting, will God accept the crop? No one's expecting to die.
Right.
Then God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, go to Shevet Ruvain, go to Mishkan Korach Datan and Aviram, warn them to separate. Most people do, but people who don't separate get swallowed up. But it's Datan and Aviram and Korach's men, the supporters, not the 250, but Korach's not there either. After they're swallowed up, then everyone gets scared and runs away. We have one little footnote at the end. See the last verse?
A fire came out.
Oh, by the way, fire came and ate the 250.
Yeah.
Well, who didn't get burnt? Aaron didn't get burnt.
Right.
And who else didn't get burnt? Korach. Because it's 250 and Datan and Korach and Aaron. So when you read, the rabbis pick up on this in Masechet Sanhedrin, in Kuf Yud Aleph, 111. They say Korach wasn't swallowed up because, you read carefully, he wasn't swallowed up. Korach wasn't burnt because it says 250, and he's number 251 or 252. So it looks like he got away. But we know he died. How do we know he died? Because in Parshat Pinchas, when we have the counting of the people, we have the census, it says that Korach died together with, he talked about Reuven's children, and talking about Datan and Aviram dying. They died when the earth swallowed up Korach and the 250. Right? No, it said when the earth came and swallowed up Korach and his men, when the fire hit the 250. And depending where you put the comma in that verse, it could be either way. And therefore the rabbis reach a beautiful conclusion. What happened to Korach? First he was burnt, and his body rolled and was swallowed up in Shevet Ruvain.
Right.
Well, the rabbis are reading really carefully what they're saying. They're catching on. Now, but you only notice this when you read carefully. When you read carefully, when you come through the story, you can't miss two different complaints, two different punishments, two different, issues, etc. And the only thing they have in common is Korach.
Right.
But why does Chumash sort of hide it? It forces you to read carefully. Now again, what I explained so far is just a careful read.
Yeah. I'm
not sure what the message is, but that's a careful read. What I want to suggest is that when people do things and have really good complaints, like people like you, they have a really good complaint.
Yeah.
Again, the complaint might be legit, but what's the goal of their complaint? You have to look really carefully what people's real intentions are. Are they coming with religious reform reasons because they really want to do a better job of serving God? Or they're political activists, or they're just out for power? Right? And when people come with religious complaints, we also want to have that right or something. Is that because they really want to be close to God, or they're just using religion as a tool? And same thing in politics. Do we really want to lead the people, and we have a better, we think we can do a better job leading the people, or we just want power, and we don't like the other people in power, and they're saying nice what people want to hear, but they're really not going to be any better.
Wow.
So I call Korach welcome to the first politician.
Right. So you're saying, going back to the beginning of in response to the question, what is Korach's, what is the defense to Korach? The answer is, Korach has a point, but we need to pay attention to what his goal is, and if we see that his goal is actually power for himself, then it doesn't really matter that he has a good point. He's just using it in order to further his own
what your goal is. If you want leadership because you really want to help the Jewish people,
right.
So fine, argue maturely. If you want religious reform, if your goal is really being closer to God, fine. If you're just taking a group of people who simply want power and only want the privilege and not the responsibility, then be careful.
Right.
And you have to read carefully, read into people's actions, or ask yourself carefully, what are people's real intentions? That might be a message. Again, I'm not sure if that might not be the message, but the main one shared with you is the analysis of the story of the two different groups that you can't miss. And the rabbis catch on to that with the double punishment. Now, there's a bigger question which we didn't even pay attention to. We have no idea when this story is happening.
Well, I think it happens straight after the sin of the spies.
As Ramban does, which makes a lot of sense.
Because that would explain why everybody's so grumpy.
Now, Ibn Ezra says it happened even before we left Har Sinai, because they're complaining about Aaron being chosen to bring korbanot, and not, Korach's making a complaint about a choice within the family, the nepotism. That makes sense when that choice was made. Why wait till now? Ramban, of course, won't accept that. But maybe it's happening in the 20th year or 30th year. We have no idea what happens during those 38 years.
Right.
Okay, well, that's the top. Maybe we'll discuss that next week when we get to Parshat Chukat.
Right.
But we'll see. But to prove your question is such a good question, when the story is over, the people go and complain to Moshe in the next parak, in Parak Zayin, Pasuk Vav, I think. They complain to Moshe, Atem hamitem et Hashem.
Yeah.
Because what's it look like?
That all
you see, there's
people
there's a lack of trust in Moshe Rabbeinu. You can't miss that. That doesn't mean Moshe is fine, but the people don't trust him for good reason, because things are going wrong. The result is bad. Now, who's to blame? When things go wrong, we like to blame our leaders. It's easy. Is it the people's fault or is it the leader's fault? And therefore, what's it look like? It looks like it's a setup. Moshe, it was your idea, and you knew the Ketoret kills people because it happened with Nadav and Avihu. So we have to prove to the people that Ketoret doesn't kill people. In fact, it saves people. Therefore, God brings the Magefa. Who saves them? Specifically, Aaron taking Ketoret, and that saves the people.
Is there any function to that, or is it just kind of miraculous? Like, is there a method by which the Ketoret saves people, and is there a method by which bringing it kills people?
So remember what I suggested. What are people's real intention? So the rabbis are right on the mark. They have a question. Does the Ketoret, actually they asked about the Nachash later on, and the same thing with Moshe's staff. But when there's a symbol of something, what's that show? If the Ketoret was brought in the temple, especially like Yom Kippur, that protects the Kohen Gadol. Kapara is usually protection from the Shekhinah. The Kaporet right, protects the Aron. With Kruvim, Kruvim protect the path to Gan Eden.
Right.
Whenever there's Kruvim, there's protection. Ketoret, Kapara is protection from the punishment of Shekhinah. Right. We bring the Machzit HaShekel, Lechaper B'nai Yisrael. You're going to war, you need protection from Shekhinah, from an encounter with God. The people need protection from God's wrath. So in the temple, what protects people from God's wrath? So symbolically, we bring Kapara by bringing the Ketoret. It's on the Mizbach Torah. It needs Kapara. Remember, once a year, the Seder Avodah Yom Kippur is on the Kaporet, the Parochet, the Kaporet.
But why Ketoret? Maybe just you could.
Because it makes a cloud. It goes back to if the Mishkan's like Har Sinai. Right. What protected the Jewish people from the encounter with God at Har Sinai? The Anan.
The cloud.
Remember, the cloud protects them. Ani bailecha ba'av ha'anan. I'm going to come to you. You'll be in the cloud, but the people have to stand at a distance.
So in other words, the fact that it's kind of hidden from us.
And therefore, what's the job of Shevet Levi? Will be the next chapter. Your job is to protect the temple from people who don't belong there.
But hold on. So, but why then does the cloud bringing the Ketoret kill the 250 people?
The Ketoret doesn't cause it. God kills them because they're doing it for the wrong reason. Only God knows the real reason. The Ketoret doesn't kill them.
In other words, Moshe, it fails to save them.
It fails to save them. God's punishing them because what are they doing? It's a leadership issue again, like all through Sefer Bamidbar, and a small group of people who have ruach inspired for the giving bad inspired. It's bad leadership, and they're bringing everyone else down because they're taking a really good claim, but misusing that claim. That's going to ruin it for other people because people are going to fall for it. God has to punish them because if He doesn't, they're going to be rebel rousers. They're going to bring the whole nation down. So God, because these people are troublemakers, got it? That's why he better separate from them and show you don't identify with them. So they're being punished because God knows their real intention. And if they would get their way, they'd bring the whole nation down. But they're being punished they're not being punished because they brought the Ketoret. They're being punished because they bring the Ketoret for the wrong motivation.
Right.
But the Ketoret doesn't kill them. And when God saves them, he saves those who appreciate the Ketoret, can save them. In other words, God has to save the people when Aaron brings the Ketoret to show everybody the Ketoret doesn't kill or it's not causing the killing.
So what killed those 250 people was the revelation of the Shekhinah.
I mean, God, it's called midat hadin now.
Revelation of midat hadin.
Come with it. Remember, on Har Sinai, you get too close.
Right. That's what the Aish is, I suppose.
Yeah, the Aish comes down. The same Aish in Har, the same Aish that came and killed. None of you they're being punished for their doing it for the wrong reason. Because Aish is thinks they did something God didn't command. And God said not to do that, and they did it.
Right.
Asher lo tzibah otam. But the Ketoret doesn't kill people. The Ketoret is what they brought, but God kills them for their bad intention.
So the Ketoret, it would be a mistake to say that the Ketoret kills the 250 people and then saves people later. It's just that those 250 people did something wrong. The Ketoret didn't save them, but later on, when Aaron brings the Ketoret, it saves the people. It
saves people, and God needs to do that to show the people it wasn't the Ketoret that does it. Now, it seems like, and this is my own take on it, God doesn't want people bringing korbanot. Do you think God would want them? Right? God is limiting sacrifices in its context, in that time period, where everyone brings korbanot. God is limiting korbanot to certain animals, certain times, certain people. You can bring an offering to God, but there's always a danger that you think you can buy God with a sacrifice.
Right.
Now, you can bring a sacrifice to remember your commitment to be God's people. But performing the ritual itself can be misleading because it makes you think that no, it's got magical powers, like you thought about the Ketoret.
Right.
And therefore, you need to bring a korban to remember to become close to God, expression of what you feel inside. When people bring a korban and think they can buy God, same thing with tefillah, if you can say the magic words and God will save you, but it doesn't come with real emotion or real feeling and real connection to God, it can be misleading. We call that idol worship. I call it IDL. Now, Chumash seems to be limiting working in the temple to educators, because Shevet Levi has chosen to be educators. Now, to make sure that bringing korbanot doesn't become voodoo, doesn't become ritual, and will mislead people. Okay? Therefore, God is making sure that only educators, people who dedicate their whole lives to education, are going to be running the temple to make sure that sacrifices come with education. That's why, and later in Chazal, what happens? When we brought the korbanot, the Levim sang their songs. It was called Shir Shoyom. Together with korbanot, right, together with the korban tamid, the Levim opened up and sang Mizmorei Tehillim, which are mostly Musar, their rebuke, and their insights, and remembering about your connection to God, and to learn from your mistakes. And that's what the Levites are about, and that becomes their job. So it seems like Chumash is limiting sacrificial offering only to. And now, when did God make that decision? It seems like after Chet HaEgel, when Aaron suggested, let's bring this celebration and bring this Hibutz Mizbech in front of this Egel, and it gets out of hand. In light of that, God says, Shevet Levi, only they're going to bring the korbanot. Because when you let people, start deciding all these new ritual practices, etc., it's going to turn Judaism into religion of rituals without actual shaping your behavior. Now, you need ritual, but it has to come with education and meaning.
Yeah.
That's my own take on it. I'm not sure if that's right, but that's the way I understand it.
Very nice.
Maybe I'm throwing my hashkaf into it, but that's I plead guilty.
Okay. So the hashkaf, the Ketoret, saves people by protecting them from the revelation of Hashem, by reminding them of
that reminds. If you study your Chumash, the Torah reminds you of the Kruvim, Gan Eden, it means you Har Sinai, the need to want to be close but keep your distance, the need to have awe of God, the need on the one hand wanting to be close but keeping your distance, the balance between them.
Nice.
That's a shir on Yom Kippur Avodah.
Okay. All right. So we do have one more. Well, we have a couple more things that happen in the parasha, but
only a couple more minutes.
right. So, do you want to tell us, like, what's the point of the story that happens at the end of the parasha about the gifts given to the Kohanim? See, it seems to me to be a little bit like rubbing it in the face of all the people that wanted to be Kohanim, but they don't get to be. And so now, like, okay, see, now we proved how hard you don't get to be Kohanim, and now you have to give them presents.
Yeah, super nepotism. Now is your complaint wrong? Now we're going to get a lot of freebies.
Okay, yeah. Now, so what's your take?
So these laws, whenever you have civil servants who are working on behalf of the people, they need a salary, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to pay them? You don't want the government paying them, then it becomes corrupt. Now, when God says Shevet Levi doesn't get a nachala, that's because they have a job to do, because Hashem hu nachlatam. God's setting aside one entire tribe to be in charge of Torah education, working in the temple, protecting the temple from misunderstanding and misuse, but guiding the people to use the temple properly. They need compensation. So, because the people bringing, in fact, what the rabbis say, Kohanim ochlim u'balim mitkaprim. When the Kohanim eat the chatat and the neshamis that are waiting to eat of the korban, that gives protection for the owner.
Right.
What's it mean? It's the Kohanim's job when they're involved with when the person brings the korban. You talk to the person, you communicate with them. It's not something technical. I think it's something very logical. The rabbis say it in a cute way. It's not that when they eat the meat that protects the person who brought it. I said by the Kohanim being involved with because the person has to give a certain part of the korban. The whole korban is brought by the person. He has to take the chazen, certain pieces of meat, and give it back to the kohen, and he eats it. Or maybe on the chatat, he eats all the meat of the korban. But in that interaction between the kohen and the person bringing the korban, should be a conversation. Because that's why you're coming to the temple. Anyway, I may be taking it too far, but that's the way I understand Chazal in that insight.
So you're saying the point of these gifts to the Kohanim is to, number one, they need to be funded because they don't have a portion. Number two, we don't want it to be from the government because that would become corrupt. And so we want it to be from the people. Number three, it teaches us that the encounter between the regular Jew and the Kohen is supposed to be an educational moment as the Kohanim educate them about what they're doing.
That's what Birkat Kohanim is about in the temple. You bring blessing by keeping Torah. But the Kohen's job is to remember he has to teach Torah and they have to learn Torah. Because real blessing comes by keeping God's laws.
Right.
That's why all the later prophets, when the temple is misunderstood, God has to take it away because it's causing more damage, causing more harm than good.
Right.
When ritual becomes a religion and not the behavior, then we have the whistleblowers who stop it. Now, one last point, which relates a little bit to Parshat Shlach. This law section is not because of what happened with Korach. The need for compensation for the Kohanim would have been a law anyhow. And there's no reason the law wouldn't have been given earlier.
Right.
Compensation for Kohanim should have been given together with all the other laws.
Yeah.
Just like the laws of when you come to Israel, when you bring a korban, an animal, it has to come with flour and wine, nestachim. Now, that law is recorded in Parsha Bashalach after the story of the spies, even though it must have been given earlier, because it's not because of the spies. But we mentioned earlier that all through Sefer Bamidbar, we have primarily narrative.
Yeah.
And what Bamidbar does intentionally, it interrupts the narrative with laws that belonged in Vayikra, but Chumash inserts those laws, right, because of the thematic connection to the story. And Chumash is begging you to look for a thematic connection between the law and the story. So last week, Parshat Tzitzit would have been given, even had this not been sin of the spies. The idea of Tzitzit makes perfect sense. Just like the Kohen Gadol has a tzitz with the P'til Tchelet to remind me he's Kadosh. Every person in Am Yisrael, Mamlechet Kohanim, everyone needs a beged with Tchelet, with the P'til Tchelet to remember that they're Kadosh. Remember? Look at them, V'item Kedoshim Le'Elohekechem. So that law makes perfect sense. And had we not sinned with the spies, we'd still have that law. But because we have the word velatur there, and to look and see, which were key themes in this story of the spies, Chumash takes that law and beautifully juxtaposes it to the story of the spies. But again, all the laws that belong in Vayikra that interrupt the narratives of Bamidbar were given earlier. When you study them, the question isn't why are they given now, but rather why are they recorded here?
And what would you say the answer is, in your words, for these laws about the gifts given to the Kohanim here?
Because it seems like the people want to become Kohanim, they're looking for the privilege and not the responsibility. You know, why are they complaining? We want that privilege. How come only he gets to do that? And when Kuna is understood, and remember, Kuna goes with Bechorah and chosen. The same thing with leadership. When your goal of leadership or religious, whatever position you're in, which comes with privileges come because of the responsibility. When the Bechor gets a double portion, it's because he's responsible for the family. And therefore, when the Bechorah is necessary, you need leadership, religious and political, and therefore those people need their compensation. But when the goal of the people who want that leadership, who want that responsibility, if their goal is only the privilege and not the responsibility, that's when it fails. That's why when Yaakov and Esav were fighting over the Bechorah, does Esav not want it because he doesn't want the responsibility? Is Yaakov want the Bechorah for his financial gain or for the responsibility of running the family? And that's the question. Does Yaakov want the Bechorah because for financial gain, or does he want leadership of the family because his brother's not the man for the job? And Esav couldn't care less about leadership. And therefore he gets the... that's the question, what are everyone's intentions? And going back to how we began, if Korach's intention is really, I want to be closer to God, I want to bring the people closer, that we can discuss it, etc. But when his whole goal is simply the privilege behind it, well, I want to be a leader. He won't say that, but that's how you get elected. First, anyone running for office says, I'm not running, remember?
Would you say that you could possibly draw an example of that from the midrash about Eldad and Medad? Like, you know, Eldad and Medad at the end of Baalach are prophesying in the camp. And, you know...
Was that good or bad?
Well, this
Yeshua thinks it's a bad idea because, hey, it can only be a certain elite group. And Moshe says, let everyone be a Navi.
Right.
If a Navi is trying to understand what God wants from us.
But I'm specifically referring to the midrash that says that they were prophesying that Moshe will die and Yeshua will lead them into Israel. So, but Moshe seems to be okay with that, according to the midrash.
But the midrash, that's we'll get to that later on. But what that midrash is that the story of Moshe with the mitavim, and then the ruach that brings that leadership. In that story, Moshe says, "I can't lead it by myself." God says, "Share your leadership." That story of Moshe and Aaron falling on their face all through Bamidbar. That story reflects Moshe's inability to lead the people. It's not working. Not that he's bad. It's not working. Because he's, there's no match between Moshe's leadership and the people. The people are not on his level. So in that story, the rabbis are saying, already the beginning of Moshe's failure of leadership to bring the people into Israel is already surfacing. So when they put words into Yeshua's mouth, when he says, put them in jail, and saying, what were they saying? Moshe and Aaron are going to die, and Yeshua is going to lead them in, right? They're hinting that the roots of the need for new leadership already begins in Parasha Balotcha, which was that was back in year 2, and only comes true in year 40 at the end.
But despite the fact that it seems like a challenge to Moshe's leadership, perhaps you could argue that because they didn't have Korach's intentions, therefore Moshe was okay to tolerate them.
But Moshe's goal was not the privilege behind it. Moshe is doing because God sort of makes him do it. No, he's the man for the job for receiving the Torah. But anyway, we'll discuss that when we get to Moshe and the rock and what goes wrong there.
Right.
But the problem with Korach is he has good complaints, like you said, they sound good, but the wrong intentions. And that you have to be careful of.
That's very good.
And I will just end with the end of the story. It's in Sefer Shmuel, because we know in Divrei Yamim that Shmuel is a great grandson of Korach, who does political reform, because the Kohanim are totally corrupt. There's Bnei Eli are corrupt to the core. And Shmuel fixes that. Right? And he changes political leadership as well. He establishes the Kuna and finally gets the right person with David. So Shmuel, his great-grandson, does religious reform and political reform for the right reason.
Wonderful.
With a good intention. That's Shmuel. And that's why that's Haftarah for Parsha Korach.
Amazing.
The rabbis are awesome. You have to just how to appreciate their cute little midrashim. They're onto really big things.
They're very nice. All right. Thank you so much, Rav Leibtag. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, sponsor an episode if you can. I'm wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.